All right, so this lecture is on operations control, and what operations control says is that, all right, so we've got their production facility. We're producing an item, whatever that is. We're gonna use cupcakes as our example, and so as we're going through this production process and we're doing our regular everyday production, we have some stuff that we've got to keep track of and we've got to control so that the product, the idea, like I said, is cupcake. When we package cupcakes, if we're Hostess cupcakes and we package these Hostess cupcakes, every cupcake should be almost identical. All right, we want them to be as close to identical as we can. Okay. And so we're going to try to control so that that happens. One thing that we need to do is we need to purchase. We got to purchase raw materials. In our case, we've got to purchase flour and sugar and eggs and milk and butter and whatever other item, chocolate that we need. And so we have to take into some different things. We have to pick some suppliers to provide those items and purchase those items from, and we have to take into account the price that those items are versus the quality. You know, there's always the price versus quality consideration, but there's also the idea of reliability. How reliable is the person that we're getting the item from? We're going to need to know that when we're getting low on an item, we can get that item. And that will stay in stock. A good example of this is Ford. Ford, in early 2018, they had to completely stop building F-150 trucks for a while. All because one of their suppliers, not that they weren't unreliable, but their factory burnt down where one of their suppliers made the item that they needed. And without that item, they weren't able to make Ford F-150s. Well, we can't afford to stop producing an item, and so we need to make sure that the person that we're getting the item from is reliable. Shipping costs play a factor. Obviously, we don't want to have to pay a ton of money in shipping costs. I kind of tie that into price, though. You're going to take that into account when you're thinking about the price of the item. So purchasing is one of them. Inventory control is the second part here. Inventory control says that we've got inventory. Okay. On the one hand, we have raw material, so we have the sugar and the flour sitting there, and then we've got work in progress. So we've got batter, stuff that we've started making. All right, and then we've got the finished goods. We've got the inventory of actually done cupcakes at the end that are packaged. And each of these inventories has what's called a holding cost. The cost, you know, when we buy flour, we have to hold that flour and we have to keep it. We have to keep it out of moisture, and we have to keep it at a certain temperature. And so it costs money to do that, and that's called a holding cost. On the flip side, we have what's called a stockout cost. And if we run out of flour, then we can't produce more cupcakes. If we can't produce more cupcakes, we're going to be out of stock of cupcakes and we won't be able to sell them. So we lose profit, and that's what a stockout cost is. That's the cost of running out of inventory. So inventory control is trying to manage making sure we have enough without storing too much and not running out, so that we don't run into stockout costs. And that's where we get this just-in-time inventory system. So the idea would be maybe we have 20 bags of flour, and we use a system that tracks how much we have on hand and how much people take at any given time, so that when we hit 5 bags of flour left, it automatically orders 20 more. And so it'll arrive just in time. So about when we're about to run out, we would get more flour. Scheduling just says, hey, we've got to keep track. Sometimes some processes take longer than other processes. So maybe it takes 10 minutes to mix, but it takes 30 minutes to bake. Well, we don't want to. We either need to make sure that we're routing things in the right sequence, or that we're scheduling workers to be at stations at the right time so that it arrives at the ovens at the right time, etc. So that's just keeping track of schedules and the timing of how products are going through the production process to make sure that we don't have any choke points, keeping that from working. And then we get to quality control, and that just says that we're, sorry for the little gap here, but quality control is making sure that we have high quality products and continually to improve our areas to maintain and make sure that we have good quality products. Okay, so there's some different ways to do that. One way that we would do that before we get to this slide is that we might inspect at different spots. So we have some people might go and look at the inventory and say, okay, our raw materials. If our raw materials are good, then our finished product will be good. Some people might look at the batter and make sure that that's good. Some people might look at the finished product and check, cut open a cupcake every 120th one or so and make sure that that's good. And so in quality control, we should do it across the board and be constantly checking so that we make sure that our finished products are what we want them to be. Some different ways we do that. One's called benchmarking. That just says that we look at other firms and we compare what we do to what other organizations are doing, and we benchmark what we think is the best process, and we try to copycat processes that we think are the best. Continuous improvements is that never-ending effort to remove or eliminate problems, so that get rid of as many defects as we can. Okay. Statistical process control is sampling and keeping track of data so that we can actually look at concrete evidence and charts to make sure that everything is on track. Statistical quality control is that same kind of concept, but it's specifically techniques used in statistics to make sure that the data we're looking at is statistically accurate and relevant to what we're working on. So some different ways that we might do that is, one is called a quality circle. We get a group of people together and we have them, and usually from different areas of the company, and we have them look at the process and make sure that and give feedback on the way the process is working and the way that we are going about our production process. Inspection, we kind of talked about that, examining the quality of work. Total quality management is this idea that we are we're looking at from every aspect of business, not just the production facility, but also how is HR affecting it, how is marketing affecting it, and trying to create better quality and customer satisfaction in the product. And then Six Sigma is kind of the continuation of that with that statistical data to help improve methods and look at the products and services and how to better get rid of defects through the statistical analysis. And so that's the quality control and production control that you need to be worried about for operations management.